Politics is about power. In other words, who gets to make the decisions? In a monarchy, the monarch gets to make the decisions. In an oligarchy, the oligarchs make the decisions. In a democracy, the people, the demo, get to make the decisions themselves. This is a good thing. Unfortunately, there are those who have little confidence in the ability of the ordinary guy to make sound decisions. To them, people are fundamentally rotten and stupid. Therefore, they need to be forced to do what politicians and bureaucrats think is best. But then there are those who figure that politicians and bureaucrats are, well, pretty rotten themselves. Therefore, it's better just to let people live their own lives, to make their own decisions. Wouldn't it be great if every individual could be involved in every decision that affects him? That would be true democracy. Of course, true democracy probably won't work in a country the size of the United States. I've been to a lot of city council meetings of the Marin County Board of Supervisors on nights when the public is allowed to speak. And those meetings can go on into the wee hours, hour after hour, as people wait at the podium for a chance to speak. Imagine if we tried to do that on a national level. We might have like 200 million people who wanted a chance to air an opinion before a decision could be made. I don't think that's going to work. So we may not be able to achieve a true democracy in the United States, but we can get an approximation of it, or at least enjoy as much democracy as possible if we simply allow decisions to be made as locally as possible. Certainly, a matter that affects only an individual can be left to that individual to decide for himself. And a matter that affects only a particular community can be left to that community to decide for itself. County and state matters can be handled by the counties and states. But why do we have a federal Department of Education? Do you really want some stuffed shirts in Washington, D.C. influencing your education here at Drake High? That's not local control. Local control occurs when decisions are made close to the people affected, or by the people affected. Decisions made locally give people some control over their lives. Of course, money also affects control. The money that operates public schools like Drake come from property taxes. Now, it used to be that the local property tax money for schools went directly to the schools. Then in the mid-70s, a law was passed that redirects the money from local property taxes to the state of California. So the state gathers up money from communities all throughout the state and then doles the money out to the schools. Of course, this involves some administration, and that uses up some of the money, and the state gets to decide how much money goes where. So you can be sure that the amount of money that comes back here is less than what we send them. But what's worse is any time a government distributes money, there's strings attached. There are new rules, regulations, conditions, stipulations. Here, you can have this money, but only if you first do this, this, and oh yes, this too. But wait a minute, isn't this our money? Not anymore. Now, the proponents of this system will point out that this allows the state to give more money to disadvantaged districts than they might otherwise get. But while that might be well-intentioned, it is undemocratic. In fact, it is anti-democratic. It took something that had been locally controlled and made it state-controlled. That's just the opposite direction you want things to go if you value democracy. In thinking about local control of schools, a debate you may find yourself in at some point regards the number of school districts here in Marin. Larkspur and Corte Madera have 2 schools, They have their own school district. There's a district office building with 4 or 5 full-time employees and a fairly well-paid district superintendent who administers that district. Kenfield has 2 schools. They have their own school district. There's a district office building, full-time employees, well-paid superintendent who administers that district. Ross has 1 school, and it has its own district. We also have a Marin County Office of Education. Now, a practical-minded person might reasonably ask, couldn't we just do away with all those districts, let the county office do all of the administering? Wouldn't that save a lot of money? And the answer is, well, sure. I mean, there'd be a little loss because when an organization gets big, there's usually some decline in accountability. But yes, that would save a lot of money. So why does Marin consistently choose to keep all of these small districts? Well, the answer is pretty obvious. People want to retain control of their local schools. I don't imagine that the people of Ross, for example, would want to be lumped together with Kenfield and San Anselmo. I think they probably want to hire their own teachers and influence their own curriculum to the extent that that's still permitted. So evidently Marin values local control of schools. But now this tells us something important about democracy. Democracy is not the most cost-effective or efficient way to make decisions. In fact, democracy is messy. Just look at our US Congress. Those people can't agree on anything. Mark Twain once said, "There are 2 things a man should never have to witness: the making of sausage and the passing of laws." And if you're not sure about that second one, just try tuning into C-SPAN sometime. So democracy is both messy and inefficient. But what's the alternative? Would we do away with Congress? Hey, that would save a lot of money, not only in congressional salaries, but in the cost of elections. But let's see, if we did that, I guess we'd be giving the powers of a king to the president. Oh, hey, think how fast decisions would be made then. But I believe that as you start to think that through, it'll start to look like not such a great idea. Not only would the people not have a voice, but it'd be kind of scary to give that much power to one person without the checks and balances of Congress. Not everyone shares these values. Consequently, some libertarian positions become misconstrued. For example, if I made the statement that I wouldn't mind if the Federal Department of Education was abolished, some people will be horrified and assume with great certainty that I just don't value education. Yet nothing can be further from the truth. I'm a former teacher. Education is very important to me. Just because I don't favor the autocratic, central planning, state-run approach to education or anything else, doesn't mean that I don't value education. The state-run approach is not the only way to do things. I would prefer that schools be operated democratically. I think that provides for better quality schools and schools that can more readily adapt to a changing world. And I'm not insensitive to disadvantaged districts. I just believe that a democratic society is more capable of solutions. So there's some thoughts from a libertarian perspective, and I hope this gives you a little better understanding of libertarian thinking. Thank you.